Welcome to Wandering Jews at J Squared Adventures. Travel far enough and you meet yourself.
We're your hosts. I'm Scott.
I'm Sorrel.
For me, dreaming is simply being pragmatic. Shimon Peres. Few countries can claim that they are born of a dream. For Israel, the historic reality of a people expelled from their homeland and who, although they established communities across the globe with both examples of great success and great tragedy, the Jewish people continued to dream of Zion, continued to dream of returning home. In prayer, in celebration, in feasting, and in fasting, the Jewish people looked forward to next year in Jerusalem.
However, it was only with the launch of the modern Zionist movement, the national liberation movement of the Jewish people, that the dream of Zion transformed from being just a messianic dream to a pragmatic political vision born of necessity and of right. And the quotation Scott above by Shimon Peres, protege of David Ben-Gurion, political leader and major architect of Israel's defense development and president of the State of Israel, captures that spirit of Shimon Peres and the Peres Center for Innovation and Peace. The Peres Center is responsible for carrying on Peres' legacy of what could be called pragmatic dreaming.
I love that term, pragmatic dreaming. And you think about the Peres Center perched just there on the beach between Jaffa's Ajami neighborhood and the ocean. They are preserving Peres' personal and professional story as an example of a level of commitment. It's about the challenges that he faced and his generation faced in transforming the dream of Israel to thorny reality. The center also advances that legacy as a living vision for education, for innovation, and for high-tech collaboration, a linchpin in Israel's sustainability and a foundation stone for regional collaboration between Israel and our neighbors, both near and far.
Yeah, I mean, pragmatic dreaming almost sounds oxymoronic, right? And in a time when, it's often difficult to hold on to hope in this country and just beyond, the Peres Center and its work offers that opportunity to embrace hope as a verb. Because, we have this expression in Israel, "Yeh beseder," it's going to be okay. But hope is not the same as optimism, it will be fine. Hope is about staring nail-hard realities in the face, planning wisely, I guess that's what pragmatic dreaming is, for possible scenarios, and putting in that hard work in an attempt to sow the seed and bring in the harvest. We sing in the Grace After Meals, that famous line reminds us, "Those who sow in tears will reap in joy." Psalms 126:5. Maybe, especially in light of where Israel stands today, hopeful and active is the only choice for sanity. Scott, when was the Peres Center established?
So we're talking about already in the 90s and that point where the whole issue of the startup nation became so central, not only to Israel economically, but also to, I think, the Israeli self-image. That sense that, hey, if there's a challenge, we know how to find a solution to make it better, to overcome, to improve. And the Peres Center, visitors engage in both interactive experiences that highlight innovations in, agriculture, communications, medicine, high-tech, defense, all these things pioneered from Israel. It's not only the story of Shimon Peres or of the center named after him, it's really, again, the story of the startup nation, the brand that, since the 90s, it tells so much of the Israel story as a hub for all things innovation.
So talking about the pragmatic aspect, so they're constantly having to update as we continue to innovate. The Peres Center is dynamic too, right? In terms of its content. And if we ask ourselves, how did this happen? How did we start up a nation from nothing, right? And transform it to this nation of startups? The answer lies in the paradox. Having nothing was at once our greatest challenge and our greatest blessing, our greatest opportunity of all. Without natural resources, our hopes were tied to our own creativity. And that's a direct quote from Shimon Peres: no room for small dreams, courage, imagination, and the making of modern Israel. Technological creativity is foundational to Israel's story, deeply interwoven with its history, survival, and identity.
Yeah, in that sense, I mean, you think about it, Israel, it's a bit of a crazy situation. I think people understood from the beginning that there's a startling scarcity of resources here.
Right.
I mean, we really don't have a lot of much. To sum it up, our survival demanded creativity, technological ingenuity, and breakthroughs in water management, drip irrigation, desalination, things connected with agriculture. Think about desert cultivation and creating alternative energies. These were all crucial. They were needs that arose from the place we came back to live and that demanded answers so we could continue to live here and pass everything that we built down.
I love that equation, that in the scenario of Israel's development, scarcity translated into creativity. And Israel's a place that has always faced and continues to face an ongoing and existential security imperative. The regional hostility that Israel has endured has forced the development of advanced defense technologies, often with civilian spin-offs, fostering crucial technological self-reliance. Israel is a story of forging a modern nation amidst these and other significant challenges.
Post-1948, post-independence, technology was already pivotal in Israel's swift development, building modern infrastructures, integrating waves of new immigrants from construction to communication. Think about it, one of the major challenges and opportunities for early Israel was simply rapid growth of the population from 1948. If at the moment of Israel's birth, the population stood around 700,000 people, by 1960, the Israeli population topped over 2 million people, largely due to immigration from post-Holocaust Europe and from the Arab and Islamic worlds. We can think of other immigrant societies. Israel was unprecedented, this growth, and it demanded answers on the ground to bring people in and provide decent lives for them.
No other country in history tripled its population in less than 2 decades, right? I mean, it's unbelievable.
In the long term, there was enormous potential in this very diverse human resource that Jewish immigrants brought to Israel from all around the world. It would be central in the formation of Israel. It's part of the beauty of Israel. It's part of the essence of our national identity. And it's part of the essence of our ability to contend with threats and maximize opportunities. So much talent was brought from so many places, from so many people. We were able to use that as a basis for positive change.
And you look at other larger countries who have the advantage of access to resources of all types, including domestic and international markets, that allow them to push ahead and scale up in a way that Israel finds more limiting. It's amazing. Israel is a major contender and competitor and technological hub. In this case, size does not matter, and Israel stands shoulder to shoulder leading international high tech alongside the United States, Canada, China, among other countries.
I saw a report on Bloomberg with an international comparison that ranked the 50 most innovative countries in the world. An innovation index that was calculated for each nation based on 6 parameters: research and development, manufacturing, number of high-tech companies, post-secondary education, research personnel, and patents. And according to that scale, Israel was ranked 5th among the 50 most innovative countries and 2nd for research and development at the beginning of essentially already the 3rd decade of the 21st century.
So, you look at a number of key factors that have leveraged Israel to play that leading high-tech role on the international stage. And, from its inception, Israel always placed a strong emphasis on higher education, scientific research. The establishment of leading institutions like the Technion, and closer to home for me, the Weizmann Institute, before and shortly after independence, laid the groundwork for a technologically skilled workforce.
Definitely. And that workforce, highly skilled, again, people bringing different cultural ideas, different attitudes, different ideological perspectives, different religious perspectives, but coming together to build. And Israel boasts a high number of scientists, engineers, technicians per capita relative to the size of the country. This very skilled human capital is obviously it's a key factor, attracting multinational companies, corporations to establish research and development centers in Israel. For example, biotech and biotech research. Israel has a very unique environment with respect to everything that has to do with engineering and life sciences. The highest number of scientists, technicians, and engineers per capita, 135 per 10,000 employees in Israel versus 80 per 10,000 in the U.S. So it's really quite amazing. Again, we're, 9 million people today in Israel, and the U.S. about 350 million, but we're still up there and making our mark in a very, very serious way.
That's wild. So let's take a look at some of the most famous Israeli developments that have both strengthened Israel and contributed in a significant way internationally. Let's start with drip irrigation. It was developed in Israel to address, going back to the idea of scarcity, water scarcity. What did we do? This technology revolutionized agriculture worldwide, especially in arid and semi-arid regions.
The Israeli bandage sounds simple, but it was invented by an Israeli military medic. A pressure bandage, it became all over the world a standard first aid device for stopping bleeding from traumatic injuries, both in military and in general civilian settings.
Mobileye, an Israeli company that developed advanced driver assistance systems. Definitely need their driver assistance in this country. Eventually acquired by Intel for billions of dollars, showcasing Israel's leadership in automotive technology.
Cybersecurity. Israel's become a global leader in cybersecurity, developing all kinds of solutions to protect against cyber threats, a critical concern as we become more and more reliant on the high-tech tools that we use to consult and supervise and assist with sometimes the most simple day-to-day tasks.
So let's zoom out. Technology is not just a sector in Israel. It's deeply embedded in the nation's DNA. It's crucial for survival, nation building, economic prosperity, and it's allowed Israel to make a disproportionately large impact on the global stage. The story of Israel is in many ways a story of human ingenuity and the power of technology to overcome challenges and create a thriving future.
Now, when we take a look at all these issues, it's a bit tough. It's a bit complicated to pinpoint an exact kind of real-time percentage of who are the Israelis professionally involved in the so-called startup nation. Based on the 2025 High-Tech Employment Status Report published by the Israel Government Innovation Authority, in 2024, the number of employees in the Israel high-tech sector was approximately almost 390,000 people. It represented slightly over 11% of the total employed people in the Israel economy, and this percentage seems to have remained relatively stable over the last few years.
The global reach broadens that picture. Israeli tech companies also employ a significant number of people abroad, right? As of early 2025, Israeli tech companies employed approximately 440,000 people overseas. That number actually equals the high-tech workers in Israel itself.
Yeah, pretty much so. And the percentage of high-tech professionals, it's relatively small here in Israel compared to the 88% of the Israeli workforce engaged, obviously, in a wide range of other professional pursuits. High-tech still in Israel is a crucial engine for the economy, contributing very significantly to the GDP, to the general wealth of the country. About 20% of the GDP generated by the Israeli high-tech industry in 2023, and high-tech accounts for over half of Israel's exports.
Let's look at the citizens of the startup nation. Sociologically, the Israeli startup nation research and industries involve various groups with central and marginal levels of participation. At a certain level, you can claim that not all citizens of Israel are citizens of the startup nation.
At the center of the startup nation are secular Jewish Israelis, and this group has historically been the dominant force in the startup nation. They often have strong educational backgrounds in fields central to tech research and development. They're well integrated into global networks. They possess cultural emphasis with regards to innovation and entrepreneurship.
And then you have the highly educated Ashkenazi and Mizrahi Jews, regardless of their origin within the Jewish diaspora. They come to Israel with strong academic credentials and professional networks in technology and business.
You have also the alumni of elite military technology units. For example, the unit that's referred to as 8200, Shmona Matayim in Hebrew. And these units serve as a significant training ground, providing individuals with cutting-edge technological skills, problem-solving abilities, and valuable connections. It's all about the networks that they can leverage when they leave the army in the civilian tech sector.
All about the connections. And more peripherally, ultra-Orthodox Jews, Haredim, constitute around 3.5% of employees in the high-tech sector. A significant portion of this growth is driven by ultra-Orthodox women. In 2018, about 71% of the ultra-Orthodox individuals working in tech were women, and that number has tripled since 2014.
Two additional stats could be shared. 74% of Jewish Israelis do finish 12 years of study with a high school diploma. And so when we look at the ultra-Orthodox community, only about 24% of young people growing up in ultra-Orthodox homes finish 12 years of study with a high school graduation and high levels in maths, sciences, English, all of the fields that would prepare them for going on to a university degree or for work in the high-tech industry.
I mean, you talk about that only, let's say, about a quarter, right, of the people actually graduate. It's important to remember that ultra-Orthodox Jews make up almost 14% of Israel's population and are the fastest growing segment because of their high birth rates.
Another major Israeli group on the periphery of the startup nation are Israeli Arab citizens, Palestinians of Israeli citizenship. Roughly 21% of the citizens of the state of Israel are Arab. The representation of Israeli Arabs in the high-tech sector, it's growing, but still disproportionate to their size in the general population. Data suggests it's around 4.5% of the high-tech workforce late 2023, early 2025, those kinds of numbers. So it's still a fairly small representation.
So the ongoing sustainability of Israel as a central international mover and shaker in high-tech depends on the state of Israel, irrespective of the government elected by its people, promoting policies for excellence in a broad-based contemporary education system. The passport to the startup nation is an Israeli educational system for all citizens that rivals places like Finland, Singapore, Canada.
Yeah, programs sponsored by the State of Israel and also by all kinds of non-government organizations. They do aim to increase the participation of both ultra-Orthodox Jews and of Israeli Arabs in the Israeli high-tech industries. Very significantly, the participation of Israelis from marginalized communities in the high-tech industry, it's not about symbolic representation. We need people. You know, it's just that simple. For the country to grow, for the country to flourish, high-tech needs to grow and flourish, and the people who are not currently playing a significant role, they need to be assisted, brought in, so that they can claim their piece of the pie.
Correct. Specifically at the Peres Center, a number of projects aim to move the needle in a significant way, both to encourage and expand participation of broader sections of Israeli society in the high-tech industry, as well as additional programs all about high-tech as a base for collaboration, cooperation, and improving the general state of all of our lives, regardless of ethnicity, race, gender.
And so, for example, a project like Starting Up Together, fostering social mobility through tech entrepreneurship program in cooperation with the Frederick Neumann Foundation and the Edmund de Rothschild Foundation. It directly addresses social mobility By providing aspiring tech entrepreneurs from underrepresented communities, including Israeli Arabs and ultra-Orthodox Jews and women, with entry points into the Israeli startup ecosystem. The program is meant to cultivate their technical and leadership skills, promote collaboration between diverse participants, and aims to reshape the face of Israeli innovation, ensuring that the benefits of the tech industry are more equitably shared. The program focuses on nurturing potential entrepreneurs regardless of their educational background or previous exposure, offering training, mentorship, and networking possibilities.
Located within the Peres Center, the Israeli Innovation Center serves as a hub showcasing cutting-edge Israeli technological innovation. It features a rotating cohort of promising Israeli startups across various sectors. This project also contributes to the advancement of technological innovation. It provides a platform for these startups to gain visibility, connect with investors and international delegations, and fosters collaborations. While not a direct development program, it fuels the ecosystem by highlighting and supporting the growth of innovative technologies with the potential for global impact. The center also emphasizes innovation that integrates social values and aims to make the world a better place. Tikkun Olam.
In medicine and healthcare initiatives, like saving children, like training doctors, these are long-standing projects that directly contribute to, very simply, the betterment of human life. They focus on cross-border cooperation and humanitarian aid. Saving the Children program provides life-saving medical treatment in Israeli hospitals for Palestinian and Syrian children in need. Simultaneously, training doctors, doctors are assisted in developing an independent Palestinian medical system through human resource development and knowledge transfer, with Israeli doctors training Palestinian medical professionals. These initiatives, they provide, obviously, vital medical assistance, but hopefully they also create unique meeting points and build bridges between communities, fostering a shared commitment to saving lives, improving healthcare outcomes, and hopefully all this transcending political boundaries.
So when you go to the Peres Center, you're not just encountering a site mainly about history. Sure, history plays a role. How can it not? It's a place that looks back to Israel's history and the legacy of Shimon Peres to fuel our ability as a country to aspire towards more, reach greater heights, and contend with tough realities without flinching, and knowing that we cannot rely on miracles, but must plan strategically, dream strategically, and move ahead carefully.
Peres himself summed up what we have called pragmatic dreaming by commenting on the big picture, then, now, and tomorrow. And he famously said, the Jews' greatest contribution to history is dissatisfaction. We're a nation born to be discontented. Whatever exists, we believe it can be changed for the better.
I love that. Where have you been dissatisfied? Ask yourself, what are your personal discontents? What are you doing to change for the better? This is a question beyond high tech that Shimon Peres invites us to consider as a nation and as individuals in our day-to-day lives.
And now, something for the road. A tip, a recommendation to help you make every journey your own.
We are very excited to have here with us today Dan Pfefferman. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about what you are doing at the moment and your work.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for hosting me here on the J Squared podcast. My name is Dan Pfefferman. In my previous life, I was an Israeli national security official and an intelligence officer in the IDF with a focus on the international arena in the Middle East. I spent many years in the think tank world, and for the last 5 years, I was the executive director of a regional Abraham Accords diplomacy initiative, and now I recently launched a very new and exciting Middle East news platform that is really the counter Al Jazeera. It's called Middle East 24. And in between, I get to have a lot of fun speaking to wonderful groups visiting Israel mostly from the United States. And I'm always happy to meet J Squared groups and congregations. Of all the things I've done over the years, it's the thing I enjoy absolutely the most.
Amazing. So Dan, tell us in your mind, we've spoken in this episode about the human face of the startup nation and how, Israel's innovation was born from necessity. In your mind, how do you see it play out when innovation becomes a tool for human connection as an opportunity to cross potentially cultural lines?
So my something for the road is really how innovation is a key aspect for diplomacy and human connectivity in general. And we don't have to theorize about it. We have a wonderful example called the Abraham Accords. And we have to bring in two aspects here. One is pragmatism and self-interest, and the other is innovation. And what we saw with the Abraham Accords back in 2020 took a little break. I think we'll be able to get back on track in the near future with using innovation and also security needs and interests to expand these, is that countries in the region, broadly speaking around the world, especially in this region in the Middle East, realize that Israel and Israeli innovation and technology is truly a marvel. It is light years ahead of much of the rest of the world. I think there's something so special here in the Israeli laboratory, right? Israel really can be seen as a human R&D experiment of society innovation, partly born out of need and necessity and the time crunch that we have here, the pressure cooker of Israeli society, but partly because Israelis are truly creative individuals. This is a truly creative society. This is a society that encourages creativity in its deepest sense, and are increasingly across the Middle East. You've had a major shift in the last couple of decades, especially in the last decade, that we're starting to see this shift. And that is, people are speaking not just in terms of old hatreds and divisions and rivalries and getting away from destructive ideologies like radical Islam or pan-Arabism, but the countries are asking themselves, how can we best serve our own national interest? And within that, they realize that for security interests, but also for their own economic growth, their human growth, and for regional connectivity, they need to and they want to tap into Israeli innovation, Israeli creativity, and the really special energy that you have here in the Israeli startup ecosystem.
Incredible. So give me an example of something that you feel has, an area of innovation.
One of the biggest areas of innovation that you see the region wanting to connect to is, water, right? Let's just talk about the simple example of water. Until the 1970s, 80s, and even into the 90s, and I remember being here as a child and even as a teenager, people used to say, every drop counts. There would be these dramatic ads on the television concerning us to save water. I remember for years I would brush my teeth and turn off the water in between or washing my hands. Dare I waste any water? And now, due to Israeli innovation in desalinization and water technology and preservation and farming, the netafim magical innovation of farming and drip irrigation, we are not anymore in any kind of water crisis, and we're actually a water exporter. We actually don't have to worry about leaving the faucets on or taking too long of showers. And that is an innovation that, first of all, our very water needy, our water poor, resource poor area is in dire need of. But it's also, for example, something that has prevented wars. We used to go to wars with Syria and Lebanon over the closing of water, drinking water, and farming water sources. That's something that we don't have to really think about anymore. And so, people are looking at that. They're looking at food innovation, agricultural innovation. Again, this is a very arid region with a population growth. The countries are thinking, how can we feed ourselves without having to import everything? And they're looking increasingly at Israeli desert agriculture innovation. And the list goes on, from health innovation to financial and cyber innovation. It's both for defense purposes, but also for growth. And it's inspiring the region and giving them many, many more reasons to want to connect officially and publicly with Israel. And so you can see, kind of the Shimon Peres and the Peres Center's vision of innovation as a driver of peace is coming true before our very eyes.
It's incredible. And also, just as you said, just a few short decades ago, things were very, very different. And with information at our fingertips, we tend to overlook at the dramatic change that's been happening in a relatively really short time. If, just to sum up, Dan, and this has been amazing, if we were to talk about dreams being pragmatic, what's one pragmatic dream you would hold for the region?
dreams have to be pragmatic, and you can see even the road to peace, even with innovation, is a very bumpy one. There are always security concerns. And, while we have to have the olive branch of innovation in our hand, we also have to have the sword or the gun in our hand at the same time. And so, this is a very dangerous region with a lot of dangerous actors. You have to be pragmatic. You have to be willing to explore new opportunities. I think the countries in the region are being pragmatic in the sense that they're willing to explore these new opportunities and get past old hatreds because of this need to access innovation and Israel's defense capabilities. And so we need to always be dreamers. We need to think big and kind of have this North Star as this goal of where we want to get to and what we want to achieve with our innovation, but we need to be smart in how we use it and not be dissuaded or deterred by the fact that there will be hiccups in the road, there will be bumps in the road. You will need to use military force at times or tough diplomacy at times, and they do go hand in hand, unfortunately, in our region and in many parts of the world. But continuing in this country to encourage an innovation ecosystem, to encourage people to want to become startup team, to want to become startup entrepreneurs, to want to take risks in whatever fields they're in, and that it will be appreciated by this country, and the country will continue to build what is essentially a very pragmatic, strategic infrastructure and ecosystem of innovation, which turns out to be our biggest export at the end of the day and what draws other countries to want to connect with us.
Amazing. Dan, thank you so much for sharing It's Something for the Road. It offers a grounded hope for us all and for your insight and perspective. I hope to see you back here soon.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Dive deeper into the world of travel on our J Squared Adventures website. That's j2adventures.com. And stay in the loop with our latest adventures on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, all under J2 Adventures. And if you enjoyed hanging out with us, don't forget to leave us a comment, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, travel safely and keep wondering. I'm Sorel.
I'm Scott.
See you soon with the Wandering Jews.